I really want to move on to the 3 content boxes, but before we do, we have to do some adjustment to our layout. If I go and turn on the visibility of content box 1, he now runs into the navigation menu above him because, of course, we extended the height of the navigation menu, right? So give me a moment here. We're going to have to do a little bit of fiddling, further fiddling. I'm going to disable the visibility, once again, of content box 1. I'm not going to worry about that guy just yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. What I'm going to wind up doing is taking the navigation menu that we've already built, and we'll use that as our footer as well. So we'll simultaneously set up the footer and adjust our layout. I hope that sounds like fun. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so I can see my entire layout, or the majority of my layout anyway. Give me just a second to kind of get things positioned. There's my footer way down at the bottom of the layout, of course. I'm going to find the footer layer inside the layers panel, and I'm going to get rid of them. I'm going to drag and drop them onto the trash can icon at the bottom of the layers panel. Okay? And if you receive a warning, a Photoshop warning that says, are you sure you want to delete the footer layer? Just say yes. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the entire navigation menu layer group inside the layers panel, and I'm going to duplicate them by dragging and dropping him onto the new layer icon at the bottom of the layers panel. And voila, we get a duplicate not only of the layer folder or the layer group, but all of the layers inside that layer group. Pretty cool. So rather than calling this navigation menu copy, I'm going to double click on that and I'm going to call this footer. All right. And then rather than calling this nav menu, I'm going to call that footer as well. Okay, perfect. All right, let's take this layer group and drag and drop him all the way down towards the bottom of the layers panel, just above the background layer. All right, good stuff. Make sure you have your move tool selected inside the toolbox on the left-hand side. You can tap your V key if you wish. And what I'm going to do very simply is click and drag this guy all the way down towards the bottom of the layout. I'm holding down Shift, by the way, as I'm dragging to make sure that I'm constraining this guy to a perfectly straight move all the way down the document. And I'm just using my down arrow key here just to do a little bit of, I call it micro positioning there. Okay, something like this. So let me zoom in on this guy just so you can see what I have here. I just hit Command 1. You can hit Control 1 or Command 1 on your keyboard to zoom in there if you like. There, something like this. Okay, so I just want to make sure that this footer is all the way down at the bottom of the layout. Okay. All right, good stuff. So there we go. There's the footer. Wonderful. That was pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And I got to show you how you can take a layer group and duplicate the entire layer group, including its contents, which is a cool trick to know. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to adjust the rest of the layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to content box 1 now, and I'll turn his visibility on. And of course, we still see that problem that we had earlier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I have the content box 1 layer selected. I'm going to hold down Control or Command. I'll grab content box 2 and content box 3 and the news feed and the footer all the way down there. Don't grab the background layer though. And make sure that you don't grab header or navigation menu either. Okay? Go ahead and let go of Control or Command. We're still on our move tool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my down arrow key to move all of the layers, all of the content on all of the selected layers simultaneously. Okay? Notice now we have a little bit of white space above content box 1. That's exactly what we want. So perhaps something like this. Okay? So literally what we've done here is we've taken all of the material inside our layout, all of the content inside our layout, from content box 1 all the way down, and we've shoved it all down, vertically down inside our layout. Okay. However, you'll notice now that the footer content is getting cut off, okay, which is no good. So what we need to do now, and this is the last step in this, this crazy adjustment exercise, is we need to increase the canvas size, the size of the document inside Photoshop, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to head to the image menu and then down to canvas size. You can hit Command Option C or Control Alt C on your keyboard if you like, into the canvas size dialog box. As far as the height goes, we're going to have to take a bit of a guess. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to wind up using. And I have a suspicion that you and I have different heights. I have 1358. I have no idea what you have. I'm going to try adding on just a little bit more. I'm going to wind up going with 1400. And if that doesn't work, if that's not enough, then I'll try adding on more. And if it's too much, we can crop off the rest, this sort of thing. So I'm going to try 1400. I'll go ahead and click on OK. Scroll down. Okay, I have a little bit of extra space there down at the bottom, but I think that's tolerable. What I'll do is I'll grab my footer layer group and I'll just position him down just a little bit more just by tapping my down arrow key. If you wind up with a massive amount of space underneath your footer, you're really not happy with that, you could try doing an undo and then heading back into the canvas size dialog box and taking another crack at it. Or what you could do is you could zoom all the way out on your document, something like this, and then you could use your crop tool to go and crop off some extra content. As a matter of fact, I've wound up with some extra space across the top of my document, so I'm going to go ahead and use my crop tool. I'll grab the crop tool here. Now, this is Photoshop CS6, so the crop tool behaves a little bit differently here inside CS6. In previous versions of Photoshop, you could just click and drag a bounding box. Here I actually get these resize handles that I'm going to wind up using for the cropping of my document here. So there we go. I'm going to wind up with something like that, I think, which looks good. I'm just going to double check the bottom to make sure the bottom is set perfectly fine. There we go. We're looking good. So the crop here inside Photoshop CS6 is a little bit different from previous versions, as I mentioned just a moment ago. If you are indeed running a previous version of Photoshop, you can click and drag out a crop frame, as I mentioned just a moment ago, and then you'll get resize handles on all four sides and in all four corners, which you can use to set your crop frame. And then when you're ready, go ahead and hit enter on your keyboard, and that will finish the job for you. So there we go. There's adjusting the overall layout. I hope that went well for you. You shouldn't have any extra space above or below your layout, and we should now be ready to go after our 3 content boxes.